always forget I can't hear the buzzing.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't happen. I'm going, oh shit.
It's just finished there.
Mm.
The aftermath of the tragic David Amess killing. So for those that don't know, a Conservative MP named David Amess was killed very recently when he was meeting with constituents, and it's just, first of all, to say it's dreadful that happened. There's no getting around that, and a lot of people are feeling very upset about it, and rightly so. It's a disgusting.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah, it's a disgusting thing to happen to anyone, whether you're an MP or not.
It's one of those things that you sling a lot of shit about politicians, but the entire point is that you do that because it's a free society.
Yeah.
You can say these things about people because you know you are safe at the end of the day. So
yes,
for something like this to happen is utterly horrendous.
Absolutely. While it is absolutely tragic, I do want to talk about the sort of the weird reaction from other people in our government about how we should
Because I'm not very
respond.
aware of the reaction. I'm only aware of this as a tragic news story, so we'll get some weird live reactions through my camera, which will be equal parts chilling and terrifying, I imagine.
Yeah, so there's recently, Dominic Raab, I'm sure.
I think I know Dominic Raab. Let me quickly Google him to make sure I do.
Yeah. Someone
says Dominic Raab, and I'm Dominic Cummings. Oh no, yep. Yes, I do know Dominic Raab. He's a bit of a weird one.
Yeah. So in response, spitting image helps. Yeah. In response to this, Dominic Raab has talked about overhauling the Human Rights Act in terms of like criticism that can be levied against the government and reducing the influence of the European Court on what police and military services.
Well, what good's that going to do?
Well,
what?
Well, he says that the way that our sort of services operate shouldn't be dictated to us by the European Union, and so he wants to overhaul it so that the EU will have less influence on how.
So is this a Brexit thing, or is this something related to?
Well, it's a sort of conglomeration of stuff, because it's not just him. Priti Patel has talked about introducing a law that would strip anonymity of people online.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, which I have my own problems with. But the problem with this is that Dominic Raab is acting as if the Human Rights Act is some weird, nefarious European legislation, when it's a British law that was developed in Britain and doesn't just ensure the rights of British people, it ensures the human rights of many different people, whether they come from Britain or not. And it's just very strange. There have been experts that say that it's deeply troubling, and I have to agree. It seems like a sort of weird, sly power grab. Fascism is trending on Twitter because of this. A lot of people are saying that's what it tends to be, a sort of shift to authoritarianism because of, a horrible thing that's happened, and it is a horrible thing, but that is like, it's bread and butter to the Reichstag fire, exactly. It's bread and butter to people who are authoritarian and want more control of our services for nefarious purposes.
I do know what you mean. I think I'm slowly starting to get the picture of what you're saying. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but this is more of a question than a statement. So is the idea that the killing of this Conservative MP is being used as an excuse to say, look what's happening because of these laws that I don't like, even if the laws are not necessarily the cause, and thereby these laws can be rewritten or binned off or whatever? Is that the idea?
Yes, absolutely. It's a sort of use of a very big crisis to try and increase the state's sort of power in order to, essentially. Well, it says here, Dominic Raab said today that an overhaul of the UK's Human Rights Act would include a mechanism to correct rulings by the European Court of Human Rights if it didn't sort of go into what the government said or in the way that they acted. So if you're
going to argue morality with the court of human rights, then I feel like maybe you're doing something wrong. Maybe you've lost the plot at some point. Do you know what I mean? If you're at a point where you think, no, I am the moral arbiter of essentially anybody in the world, that the what was it, the European Court of Human Rights, and anything that they decide to convict, I am the arbiter of that. I can just decide, actually, no, that's a perfectly fine thing to do. Come to England and that'll be fine. Yeah, it doesn't matter. That's deeply disturbing, because the entire point of like a moral judgment is that it's based on, as Dougie's just pointed out, Britain, but the entire point of a moral judgment is that it's based on two things. One being the amount of suffering that somebody might be going through, and the other being sort of a consensus.
Yes.
It needs to be the majority decision, because otherwise it's immoral for one person to make the moral decisions for everybody in the world.
Absolutely.
I don't know if he's proposing some kind of British high moral authority or something, but would he be the guy in the chair for that? Yep. Or would he get some kind of a long-standing British judge? I don't know, but either way, I don't like the sound of it.
Yep.
Because what you're essentially saying is, I want to create a new sort of ministry of moral standards.
Yes.
And with my ministry of moral standards, I want to start governing what everybody does, which is terrifying and horrendous. I think, literally, that's... Sorry, it's just popped into my head, because I did an A-level in Spanish, and so we did like about the Franco dictatorship in Spain.
Yes.
I think they did actually have a department of moral standards and authority that made PR about like a woman should do this and this so that when her husband gets home, and we had to translate these leaflets and stuff, and it was really horrible stuff. So how far away are we from Dominic Raab becoming moral arbiter of Britain and saying, oh, and by the way, you must buy all of your paint at B&Q because I own stocks there?
Yeah, I mean...
Do you know what I mean?
Or
even something much more horrific.
Most fascist regimes do have... I mean, that is the whole point of fascism. It's dictatorial morality at every level of society. Yeah. And I'm not saying that we're at fascism, not by any manner or means, but we're at a creeping sort of, we'll take that away, and we'll take that away, and it's bit by bit, rather than, brown shirts walking down the street, shouting anti-Semitic things and, trying to overthrow the government. It's more of a sort of corroding of institutions that's gonna lead to fascism again. He said that he wants Britain's Supreme Court to be the ultimate ruler of what military and police services are allowed to do and what human rights are.
Well, that's just utterly flawed. Does he mean every police and every military, or does he just mean the British police and military?
He means the British police and the British military.
I mean, in that case, it makes slightly more sense, but it's still terrible, because...
we tried having a sort of every country having its own national ethos about what you're allowed to do to human beings, and it led to conflicts like the First World War, like the Second World War.
That's a good point.
I don't think it's a bad idea that the international community has a set standard for how you should treat human beings, and that everyone is sort of kept to the same page, rather than, well, it's my country and we can do whatever we want. It's that, well, if those things are bad, then no, you can't. And if you're not going to do bad things, why do you want a unique ability to sort of change what is a human right in your own country and disregard what everyone in the international community says? It's really creepy.
Petrifying. Yeah.
Very much so. The thing with Priti Patel as well, what do you think about anonymity being stripped for people online?
Sorry, I was taking a hasty sip of water. I'm obviously against it, I think. I think that... Well, I say I'm obviously against it. Obviously, it's a complex and multifaceted issue, but... Yeah. I can see the positives, I can see the negatives. I suppose I haven't really made up my mind yet.
Yeah.
That's bizarre. I came out of the gate with such a strong opinion, and now I'm saying, well, I don't really know. What do you think about it?
I mean, I do think that huge tech corporations do require regulation in terms of what's allowed to be posted and what isn't. Or at least there should be a sort of set standard like in society, rather than just falling back on, well, I'm a corporation and I can put whatever I want in my platform. But because there comes a point where a corporation becomes a necessity. Like, it's big enough that there are no other options, if you get me. Like,
I'm not sure I do.
Well, it's monopolies. Like, if the market that we live in is filled with different people with different sort of things, then you could maybe say, well, that's your business and you can run it in any way that you want as long as it doesn't break the law. But if the very few options are all owned by the same sort of people, do you really have a free choice in what social media platform you want to go on? Facebook and Instagram are jointly owned, you know, so it's like, that's a huge monopoly of social media right there. And Google owns what? YouTube? What else do they own? Like,
everything ever.
Yeah, well, it's
Google owns so much stuff. Yeah,
you get my point. It's like, you can't really say now, oh, well, we're a corporation and have the immense influence that you do, and not expect to be treated as maybe not a public institution, but certainly a public service, you know?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it sort of comes down to, like, in the street, somebody can't come up to me and start screaming abuse at me.
Yes.
Because that's illegal. I would go to a police officer and say, this person has been following me for 8 hours and screaming abuse at me. Can you please arrest them or something?
Yeah.
But then...
But you can block people online.
You can block people online, yeah. And I think that's certainly something I would never want to get rid of. I just don't... Because I can't see... Right. Let's break this down. Let's pretend I'm some moron you've dragged off the street, which is frighteningly accurate to what I actually am. Can you explain to me what Priti Patel is doing and why she wants to do it? Because I don't think I understand that well enough to have an opinion.
Okay, so the reason that she wants to strip anonymity for people online is because of the increasing abuse that MPs get through trolls and stuff, and she sees a correlation with what happened to David Amess in regards to people sending shit like, oh, Priti Patel, you're an arsehole, sort of thing. Which...
But then, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you wouldn't hit someone with a shovel and then call it gardening. That's not...
No, exactly. It's like, it's people online criticising public figures. You could maybe make an argument that could somehow relate to real life. But the idea that some idiot online calling Priti Patel an arsehole is the same as someone going up to an MP and killing them is not in any way comparable. Like, it's
those two things aren't.
It's reactionaries always do this when there's like a crisis. It's like, well, we need more control over things that do we even know that the guy was a troll? Do we even is it even true that the guy was showing a behaviour of hating David Amess? It's like it's so complicated, and even if it is, why would you then say, well, tighter restrictions and all anonymity needs to be stripped from everyone so that it doesn't happen? It's like, it's not a very surefire way of making it not happen again, because people are just going to be like, well, why are you punishing me for something that some arsehole has done, you know?
I think, it's sort of like when you were at school and there's two kids that won't shut up, and then that means all of you have to stay in at break time. It's, I mean, you know, it's more horrific than that, but it's the same theme.
Definitely,
I think we've sort of... I think I sort of slightly understand better now. And because the reason that David Amess was killed, it wasn't that somebody was tweeting a load of things at him and then one day they decided they'd had enough and tried to kill him. I don't think that was the reason. The reason was because they wanted to kill him, so they got a knife and killed him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's not... Twitter doesn't factor into that, surely.
Yeah.
Unless I'm massively misunderstanding the mind of somebody that would go out and stab someone. Unless I'm massively misunderstanding, surely social media doesn't play a part in that. I just don't just don't get it. I don't.
Yeah.
There's no connection there. If she'd have said we should tighten laws on knives that might be considered weapons, then I can understand that. That's something I could understand going out of this. Or if she'd have said we should tighten security around MPs meeting with constituents and have people have to do background checks before they can meet an MP or whatever, or go through metal detectors, I can understand that. Those are things that would actually have prevented what's happened. But what she's suggesting and what Dominic Raab is suggesting, neither of those would prevent what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
They're just random laws that people want to go for.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, isn't Priti Patel, is she the Home Secretary or the Defence Secretary?
She is the Home Secretary, I believe.
So having much less anonymity online would be a brilliant thing for her. Because then if somebody tweets something sort of saying, I really hate Boris Johnson or whatever, she can kick their door down and say, they're going to definitely murder the Prime Minister. Let's go and get them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's just fucked.
I mean, this government has been, more so recently, has been showing very, very clear signs that they want more authority when it comes to what we do and what we say. Increased police powers in the wake of the Sarah Everard case, which is I can't
absurd.
I can't even get into that. Repealing the Human Rights Act, okay? It can't be overstated how dangerous that is, because it's an act that protects everyone, absolutely everyone. And this weird faux nationalism of Dominic Raab saying, well, the British and the British military and police shouldn't have to be dictated to by Europe. It's like Europe isn't one entity.
Is that British people can inherently make better decisions.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, which
is British supremacy.
I mean,
which is just horrific in itself.
I mean, it's the conservative sort of mindset, isn't it? It's the priority of the individual over millions of people, multi-millions of people that should have the same rights, and no one should be treated differently or given special treatment for us. And it also leaves us open to authoritarianism. Like I don't know about anyone else, but I can feel it. I can feel this theft, this weird, horrible, sticky sort of thievery of what protects us all. That's the feeling that I'm getting, because what other reason would you have for repealing a Human Rights Act? Like, really? Why is it so troubling to them? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I think people are too comfortable. Maybe people should be less comfortable.
Yeah.
Can we arrange for that to happen, please?
People have too many rights, you know. How? Oh, God.
These bloody people, they deserve a working week that's less than 100 hours? No.
Yeah.
I can get them back in the what's it called? Victorian times, when you go to a workhouse. Get them back in a workhouse.
Yeah. Poorhouse, yeah.